Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be doing a follow-up to a video that I actually did back in December on the IBM WorkPlace Shell for Windows 3.1. And if you guys haven't seen that video, I would highly recommend that you go and check it out up in the card so that you'll kind of be up to speed on what this program is and how it actually came to be. But to give you a TLDR version of that video, this was a piece of software that was written by a group of IBM employees or a single IBM employee through IBM's employee-written software program, and it was basically designed to give Windows 3.1 the OS2 WorkPlace Shell interface. So if I kind of scrub through this video here, basically what it does is it transforms Windows 3.1 into looking like OS2. It kind of gives it a new theme. It just kind of takes over the program manager and kind of replaces it with IBM's OS2 WorkPlace Shell. And today what we're going to be doing, as suggested by some of you guys on this video here, we're going to be seeing how Windows 10 handles IBM's OS2 WorkPlace Shell that was written in the 1990s. So we're going to be seeing how that works on Windows 10 here in 2020. So we've got the piece of software downloaded right here. This is version 1.5.1, and since this is a 16-bit piece of software, it's obviously not going to work on Windows 10 natively, and it's going to throw up that Windows Smart Screen-like error where it says this app can't run on your PC, and that is because this is a 16-bit piece of software. But that is not a problem for us because we have OTVDM or WineVDM, which I did a whole video on. That'll be up in the cards as well, which basically allows you to run 16-bit programs on a 64-bit installation of Windows. So we're going to try to just drag the setup file right here onto OTVDM and check that out. It actually comes up with the setup program, and it's got this greetings window right here. Welcome to the WorkPlace Shell for Windows Setup program. This program will install the WorkPlace Shell software onto your computer. So that is pretty awesome. Now we can obviously maximize this setup window right here, and we're just going to go through with the setup process here. We're going to go with a new install, and we're going to install it to CWP Shell and press continue. And now it's going to actually give us an error message saying it could not remove a file. So we can just probably hit cancel here. No, we don't want to exit setup. So it's trying to remove this file here. Okay, well apparently just by hitting cancel and clicking on do you want to cancel the setup, saying yes to that, it actually just went on with the setup. So now it's saying what language do you want to be installed. We'll just go with US English, and yeah, we'll just let's go with a custom installation so we can kind of modify these options. So it's going to ask you, what features do you want installed. So we're going to see how it migrates the current desktop to the WorkPlace Shell. This is going to be interesting, seeing if it will replace the task manager with window list. Setting OS2 color scheme as the default color scheme, that might work. And setting the WorkPlace Shell as the default shell. Now this I'm fairly certain is not going to work because Windows NT based systems do not use the same method of selecting the default shell that Windows 9X and Windows 16 based operating systems use. So I don't really think that's going to work. But we can just choose it and hit continue and see what it actually does. So, yep, this is kind of what I thought. So it's going to try to write to the INI file, which is obviously non-existent in this case, because obviously Windows 10 does not rely on the system.ini file. It relies on the Windows registry instead. So hitting retry here is obviously not going to do anything, so we're just going to click on cancel. And this is exactly what it did before. It said that setup is not yet complete. Do you want to exit? And if we say no, it comes back to this screen right here. So we say cancel, and if we say yes, now it's actually going to say setup failed. In case you're having trouble with this installation, please refer to the readme.first file on the disk. So if we hit OK, now it actually cancels out of the setup. So before, it didn't do that. Basically what OTVDM does is it actually creates a mirror of certain files on your system, or that would be on a 16-bit Windows operating system. So like this right here is the C drive. So this is that file that it was trying to move before. If we go into Windows, you've got things like win.ini, system.ini, things that the installer is going to try to change. But obviously, things that Windows 10 does not really rely on, because Windows 10 is obviously it's an NT-based system. It's going to rely on the Windows registry to kind of figure out what to use as the default shell. So we can try to run this again and maybe modify some of those options to see if maybe by deselecting, like, do you want to replace the task manager, if that will actually allow us to get through the setup process. So we can hit continue here. We're going to go with a new install. We're going to install it to CWP Shell once again. And now it's actually skipped past the error message it gave us before, which was referring to this file right here inside of the C folder, this file right here where it wasn't able to move it before. Now it's actually found it. So we're just going to go with US English right here, and we're going to go with a custom installation to modify these settings. And let's say that we don't want to replace Task Manager with the window list, and we don't want to set the WorkPlace shell as the default shell. So this was the thing it was trying to do before when it was trying to modify the system.ini file to replace the Task Manager entry, and that's what it was failing on. So by deselecting that, we may actually be able to get through the installation. So we will still select migrate current desktop to WorkPlace shell and set OS2 color scheme as the default color scheme and press continue. Okay, so now it's trying to open up a file named control.ini, which it actually cannot find because I don't think OTVDM has created it for us. There is not a control.ini file, so I wonder if we create one. Let's create a text document. Oh, I need to turn on file extensions. So we're going to uncheck hide extensions for known file types. So we are going to create control.ini. And get rid of the text extension. So now we have a control.ini file, so we should be able to hit retry. And now it's able to, oh wow, check that out. So it's actually installing here. So now it's coming up with an error saying file copy operation failed, incorrect number of bytes written to disk, source file or destination disk may be corrupted. It's asking us to use check disk. So the source it's trying to pull from is trying to find the license.txt file, which is in here, and it's trying to move it to CWP shell license.txt. So if we hit OK, wow, setup failed. Okay, so I wonder, something that we can probably do is just copy the license.txt file and paste it in CWP shell and just paste it in here. So these were some of the files that it was trying to actually copy over, and for whatever reason it wasn't able to copy license.txt. So we're going to try to run this again and see if we are successful in getting it to actually install with that file in there. But you guys were able to see that by unchecking those two options, I was able to bypass that error message and continue on with the setup. So we're going to try that same thing again. So no, it's actually doing the exact same thing. Even with the license.txt file in there, it's still trying to copy it over, which is going to actually cause the setup to fail. Alright, so we do have another version that we can try here. We were trying version 1.51 of the software. Right here we have version 1.4, so we're going to actually try this out to see if we get any better results with this. We're going to open up OTVDM and we're going to drag the setup executable onto OTVDM.exe and have it launch with that. And you can see that it actually loads up. And it should launch the setup here if everything works correctly. So yep, there we go. So we've actually got a bit of a theme going on the title bar. That is interesting, as I haven't actually changed any settings, but this is a color that the OS2 shell actually uses. So that's actually very interesting. So we're going to go ahead and press continue to go through the setup process. We're going to go with a new install once again. We're going to install it to CWP shell. Now, I did actually move all of the 1.51 files out of this directory, so we can still install to the same directory, so we will press continue. We're going to go with US English as the language, and we're going to go once again with a custom installation to modify these settings, and we're just going to uncheck all of these. I actually tried this with 1.51 and it still did not install properly. We're going to see if by unchecking everything, if we can just hit continue and have this install for us. And check that out, it is actually getting past that. Oh my gosh, it actually worked. So it actually got past that one. It was license.txt that the 1.51 installer was having trouble with. So now it says your WorkPlace Shell software has been properly installed. Please restart Windows so the new shell can take effect. Well, obviously that's not going to happen. We should just be able to go into the C drive, go into WorkPlace Shell, and we should just be able to launch wpshell.exe, obviously by using OTVDM. So we will just launch this with OTVDM. And so now it actually gives us an error saying the profile wpshell.ini is missing or corrupted. Check that that file is in the Windows directory. So since I was running that with OTVDM, it does use the Windows folder that's already in the OTVDM folder. As I was kind of explaining before, OTVDM or WineVDM basically creates a mirror of your C drive and certain system folders that these 16-bit applications will like write files to. So it is trying to look for a INI file inside of this folder that is not here. So we're going to go into the Windows folder and see if we can create a new text document, and we will call this wpshell.ini, and yes, we will change the extension. So this is just going to be a blank INI file, so we'll see if it can open up with that. So it's still going to say it's missing or corrupted. Alright, so let me just fill you guys in very briefly on what I'm going to be attempting to do here. You guys saw from that last clip that the wpshell.ini file is our culprit that is basically not allowing us to run this piece of software. And even after creating a blank file with the same name in the OTVDM Windows folder, it still did not allow us to run the program. So what I did is I actually went back to the VM that I used in my original video on this program, and I actually copied the wpshell.ini file from that working installation onto my host computer and then into this VM. So this is the file right here. Now the thing that kind of makes me wonder if this is going to work is let's actually edit this file and let me show you what it looks like. Yeah, so you can see here, this does not look like your typical INI file, like, at all. It honestly looks like if you try to open up an exe file in Notepad, it kind of has a very similar effect. It looks very corrupted, but this is exactly how it looked on Windows 3.1. I opened this up on the Windows 3.1 VM, and it looked exactly like this. So we're going to just try to copy this file into this folder right here. This is, again, the OTVDM Windows folder. So we're going to try to go back to the OTVDM master folder and then try to drag wpshell.exe and run it with OTVDM and see if this works. And oh my gosh, it is actually working. Check that out. Are you kidding me? It actually worked. Okay, that is insane. So here we are, guys. We are now running the IBM OS2 interface on Windows 10. So let's actually explore it a little bit. So it opened up a ton of folders. You guys saw it was even doing the animations. So it did not completely replace Explorer, but again, it wasn't designed to do that. But very interestingly, the icons on the desktop still show up, but I can't actually interact with them. You can see I'm trying to click on, and when I actually right click, check this out, it completely takes over the desktop and comes up with that same context menu that it did in the Windows 3.1 video, in the original video. Oh, but now you see when I actually close out of that menu, it actually does not show the icons anymore, so it has taken over the entire desktop. But the Windows taskbar and the start menu are still here, so we can still open that up just fine. If you guys saw the original video, you'll know that there were icons that showed up on the desktop when we ran this program. It did take over the program manager, and it actually displayed icons on the desktop, which is something that is not happening here. And so for the folders, it's actually attempted to recreate, oh yeah, check that out, it's actually attempted to recreate the Windows 3.1 program groups here. So this is the accessories group, which you see we have things like Write and Paintbrush in here, but they're obviously not going to open up because they don't exist in Windows 10 here. But we've got all of these, like, I wonder if Sound Recorder, yeah, so Sound Recorder doesn't use the same name. There is a Sound Recorder in Windows 10, but it's probably just not that same application name. Notepad, I guess Notepad doesn't open up, so that's interesting. Because Notepad, I know, is still notepad.exe, but that doesn't open up through the shortcut. So it looks like even the applications that have the same exact executable name, like Notepad here, do not open up, except for Write, maybe? And yeah, check that out. You can see, yeah, it actually will open up Write. So that's interesting. It'll open up Write, which is WordPad, which still uses write.exe as the executable name, as like the file name. But it doesn't open up Notepad, which has the same, like Notepad is still notepad.exe, so it's not able to open that, but it's able to open WordPad. You guys can probably also notice that the hourglass animation, like the waiting cursor, has been changed to the little computer with the clock on it. When I open that up here, you can kind of see that, yeah, that has completely taken over the regular animation, which in Windows 10 is obviously the little spinning blue circle, but as for the cursor itself, it is still the standard Windows 10 cursor. So yeah, that is interesting. It basically tried to recreate the application groups that it would have in this folder in Windows 3.1. So Games does the exact same thing. It has shortcuts for both Solitaire and Minesweeper, both of which are not in Windows 10 anymore, so it's not going to be able to open them up. Under the startup folder, it shows nothing in here right now. Under applications here, you can see that, yeah, it's got the exact same thing, but MS-DOS Editor and Microsoft QBasic actually have icons that go with them, but you still cannot actually launch the program because, once again, they are not in Windows 10. Last but not least, we have the main folder, which is going to contain things like the file manager, which obviously is not here anymore. Pretty much all this stuff is not here anymore. We also have control panel here, which looks to do the exact same thing that it did with Notepad, even though you can still access control panel by typing control.exe into run or into the command prompt. It is saying that the file is not found. So that's interesting how WordPad or Write is the only one out of all these that actually open up. So that is the main window. We can go ahead and close out of that. And yeah, check out the animation that it does. It's actually pretty cool. And you can kind of see that it plays the animation and then it basically delays the window closing, because the window actually closes with the standard closing animation that Windows 10 does. So watch this. If I double click this to close it, it'll do the animation, and then once the animation is finished, the window will close just like any other window does in Windows 10. So we can close out of all this stuff here. So yeah, accessories, we're not obviously going to be able to open anything up in there. But that's everything in here. Now for the system setup window down here at the bottom right, all of these basically correspond to various control panel panes. And some of these are still in Windows 10. There is still a mouse option in the control panel, but it's still going to come up with an error saying it could not find the file. And that's probably going to be the case for all of these. So device driver install, country, sound, font palette, and scheme palette. Yeah, it does all the exact same thing. System here, you can open this up, and these are actually the settings that the WorkPlace Shell itself actually allows you to modify. So it's things like, do you want to have a confirmation come up on folder delete? Under window here, you can change some of the appearance settings. You can disable the animation if you want to. Now again, right clicking on the desktop will open up this context menu, which also allows you to do things like shut down the system. We're going to see if that still works in Windows 10. I have a feeling that it might. We can go to run here to just get a standard run prompt. So let's see if we can open things like Notepad. Okay, so Notepad file not found. Let's try to browse to see. Oh, I think I know why it's not able to find all those files, because they're not in the OTVDM Windows folder. That's why. Because this is all running under OTVDM. Yeah, so that's why it's not actually able to open up all of those files like Notepad and Control Panel, because those files are not in the OTVDM Windows folder. I guess WordPad is. No, because WordPad isn't in here either. So I don't know what was going on there, but it's probably because like this application basically right now thinks that this folder is the Windows folder on the computer. So if I type in C Windows Explorer.exe, it's going to say that it can't find it, even though we can go into the standard Windows folder here, not this one, but obviously in C Windows, and there is an Explorer.exe executable in here, as there always is, because this application thinks that this Windows folder is the C/Windows folder. So that is why it's not able to find things like Control Panel and Notepad. But it's interesting because inside of this Windows folder, there is no write.exe, and it's not a hidden file either, because I have hidden files turned off. So it's somehow able to figure out where write is, but it's not able to figure out where Notepad is. But also in here, we obviously have, you can like sort icons if there were any icons that were on the desktop right now. You can select things. System setup will open up this same window that we were just in before. You can lock up now, which I don't think, yeah, that doesn't actually work. So locking up does not actually do anything. And you can get help if you want to. Go to product information. You can see right there, WorkPlace Shell for Windows 3.1 release 1.4, copyright IBM Corporation, 1994 to 1995. So yeah, that is when this piece of software was released. And settings up here, we'll go to the like general program settings. These are all of the settings that the program will actually allow you to modify. So we can change things like the background if we want to actually. Let's see if we can change a color here. Let's go with this one. So that'll change the border, but it won't change the actual desktop background itself. So you can change things like under Windows settings, you can change the lockup settings if you wanted. Well, if the lockup feature worked, you could choose if you wanted to have it happen automatically. And then credits, here are the actual developers that worked on this piece of software. Now, last but not least, before we end off this video, I want to actually see if this shutdown option in here will actually allow us to shut down the system. So let's try it out now. So it's going to say, do you want to save current desktop configuration? Sure. And well, it looks like it just closes out of the program, but interestingly enough, the desktop like background setting that I modified, where I changed the background color to that like bluish color, you can see that it actually applied on the regular Windows desktop. So that part is working. It's just the part of the program actually you know, showing all of the icons that is, and then displaying the proper background, that is not actually working. And we can even try to run this again, and let's see if it maybe okay, so it basically does the same thing. It'll open up, but you can see that the background you know, is not, like, we cannot interact with any of the icons anymore. And then when we right click, it basically just displays this solid black color, even if we had specified in the WorkPlace Shell settings itself that we wanted to change that. But honestly, guys, there you have it. That is attempting to run the IBM WorkPlace Shell, which is the OS2 interface, on Windows 10 here in 2020. I am honestly very impressed. We did have to do a lot of, you know, trial and error with this, just to, you know, try various different settings during the setup process, and then even copy some files, like I mentioned, from a working Windows 3.1 installation that has the, you know, this program running onto Windows 10. But doing all of that actually got this thing to work on Windows 10, which is insanely cool. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, definitely be sure to give it a thumbs up. Be sure to get subscribed down below and turn on those channel notifications if you haven't already, to get notified whenever I upload a new video, which I do multiple times a week on this channel. And if you guys have any questions or comments for me, be sure to leave those down below, as I always enjoy reading what you guys have to say. And as always, I just want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.